Hello, it's Bob Wells here, and welcome back to the Undercurrent Stories podcast, where we dive deep into the hidden depths of our world, one fascinating guest at a time. Today we're joined by a truly special guest, singer-songwriter, guitarist and all-round musical storyteller Quint Starkie. Currently in the middle of a UK tour, Quint brings with him a blend of heartfelt lyrics, masterful guitar work and decades of experience both on and off stage. From playing in the USA and Sweden to writing songs that speak directly to the soul, his journey is as rich as his melodies. So in this episode we're going to be talking about tour life, some of the creative sparks, musical influences and everything in between. So whether you're a long-time fan or just discovering his work, you're in for something genuine and inspiring. So sit back, turn up the volume and enjoy this conversation with the one and only Quint Starkie. Hello Quint, and welcome back to the show.
Hi Bob, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I was just counting. It's about the third time that you've been on now.
Yeah.
And thank you especially for coming and taking time out on the road. I know you've been very busy. I have to say, though, it looked very relaxed a few minutes ago when I looked on some social media and you were in a swimming pool.
Oh, yeah, that was, we've taken that down now, actually. But, yeah, we played a house concert last night, a very special house concert in a beautiful refurbished, I'd call it a mansion in the Lake District. And they had a beautiful hot tub and a sauna. So we, myself and the drummer Remco, we made the most of it this morning, had a nice breakfast. And coming from, an Englishman living in Sweden, it's small things make me very happy, like a breakfast, bacon sandwich, cup of tea. I miss all those things. It sounds funny, but in Stockholm, you don't get the same sausages, you don't get the same bacon and stuff. So it's, I have like a list of things to tick off when I come here, like a scone afternoon tea, full English. We've just had a lovely Sunday roast on the way down. So, yeah, it's going really
well. We'll talk about the tour in a minute and your music, but just... Yeah. I know you've mentioned this before on the previous two episodes, but could you just give a little brief resume of sort of how you got your life growing up and how you got into music?
Sure. Basically, at the start, I saw some kids on Junior Showtime, a kids program, strumming classical guitars, and I just said to my mum, I want to learn to play guitar. And my dad was a builder, and he came home, and my mum told him, and she said, Dad says you can get a guitar as long as you take lessons. And they found me a really good classical guitar teacher. So I learned to read music from first day. And when I got to 15, my teacher was actually a pianist. So he said, you know as much as I do now. You need to find another teacher. And his name was Burton Granger. He was a beautiful man. And I always wished that he would have said, you know what, you should learn piano now. Because that would have been I play a piano now, but not at the standard I would have done if I'd have had proper lessons. So then the normal route from there followed that I got an electric guitar and I started playing in local bands and doing all the working men's club circuits. And at the same time, I left school at 16 and I served an apprenticeship in engineering. And when I was 21, I graduated. And I said I went in my local music store and they said, hey, there's a band leaving for Europe. They need a guitar player, quick. There's an audition tomorrow. Do you want to do it? And I said, yeah, sure. And because I could read, and they had like 5 sets of nights of jazz standards to current pop, I got the gig because, they could just shout out a number. I could open the music and play it. So I did that. We toured Germany and Norway. And along this time, I was a footballer. I signed for Burnley at 15. So I was thinking about being a footballer, but that didn't work out. And I said to my workmates when I got this gig, here's my toolbox and my overalls. I'm gonna try music, and I'll probably be back in like 2 weeks. But that was 40 odd years ago. I never went back. And I always remember I read about this school in America called Musicians Institute, and it was at that time in mid '80s. It was $12,000 to go there. Luckily, because my dad was a builder and I'd been working, I saved and I bought a little terraced house for, listen to it, £1,700. And it was in a really nice area in Accrington. My dad helped me, obviously my dad helped me do it up. And so I never actually lived in that house. I just rented it out. And then one day when I decided to do this, apply for this school and got accepted, I sold it and used the money to finance my dream. An interesting story was I was on this boat in Norway with a American guy and the rest of the band, and we were having champagne. You played these places for like a month at a time, so it got boring during the days, and this guy sent over a bottle of champagne after one gig, and a note saying, if you guys would like to come on my yacht tomorrow, we can drink champagne and just... So we did that, and he got us all together, and he said, okay, guys, what are your dreams in life? And because I was a new guy, I got asked last, and I said, well, I've read about this school in America, and I'd love to go. And he said, well, why don't you? I said, it costs a lot of money. He said, how much? I said, like, it's $12,000. And he said, you really want to do it? I said, yeah. He said, write your bank account number down on this paper and I'll put the money in your account. If you ever get in a position to pay me back, do it. Otherwise, just chase your dream. And me, coming from Accrington, thought, there's got to be a catch here. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And I said, no, I didn't do it. But I did sell my house, and then I moved to Hollywood. And that's pretty much where everything started to take off at Hollywood. It's I got management and got in bands, and I was playing all the clubs on the Strip. And
fast forward to the tour. You've been in the UK now for is it a couple of weeks?
So I arrived Wednesday, and then I met Dory Jackson, who's doing the BVs and percussion, and Remco Engels, who's a Dutch drummer who was in It Bites with me. I met them on the Thursday, and we did the first gig Thursday night. So it was. I'm on acoustic guitar, and I have a Boss looper that has some basic beats in there, and I've got my delay MIDI sync to the beats, so that my guitar is always in sync with the beats. And then Remco's playing it's a thing called a hand sonic, where he's programmed congas and shakers, and he's playing real shakers, and Dory's playing shakers, and it's just a really nice sound. It's not too much, and it complements the acoustic element. And we played a place called Herman Hart's in Oswald Street, and it was the last ever gig there. They were closing down, so it was, and it's an old church, so I had to do the thing where I went up to where the sermon, the altar, and did the guitar solo and went around the church with the guitar. It was pretty funny. But a very, very emotional gig, because Francis has played there many times, Francis Dunnery, who I've been fortunate to open for.
Yeah. For those listeners that may or may not have heard of Francis Dunnery, he's obviously the main guy behind It Bites.
Yeah, and he was the guy who, I was a fan when I was 18, watching him on Top of the Pops. And ironically, I never met him, but when I was in Hollywood, he was actually playing at a club further up the street when I was playing the same night, and I never knew about this. Otherwise, I would have gone to see him. So I didn't actually meet him until about 2012, when I heard he was doing these house concerts, and he came to my house in Stockholm and did a concert for about 50 people. 48 had never heard of him, and he just blew them away. I had neighbours that were like in their 80s that hardly spoke any English, and they bought CDs. The guy's just a genius. So, and Francis said, that's what started this writing my own songs. He said, because I have a big studio in my house, because I do a lot of jingles and TV work. And he said, oh man, you're a muso. Yeah, sure. And we're both Northern. We're both from the same generation. And he said, oh man, you should do an album. You got to do an album. And I said, yeah. And then 6 months later, he called me up and said, how's the album going? I said, still doing the jingles. No, you've got to do it. He said, just write one song and send it to me. So I wrote a song called Where I Belong and sent it to him. He said, oh, this is great. Just keep going. And then he just kept pushing me. We used to Skype each other. And he just kept pushing me. And before I knew it, I had 12 songs. And he said, you know what? Just come to my studio in New York and we'll do it there together. And so I flew over. And, there was no mention of any fees for recording, whatever. We did it in his studio. I mean, I probably learned more in that week from Francis about production, songwriting, recording than I did in 12 months in Hollywood, paying $6,000 for the privilege. No, it was just we would work so hard, and the guy's just got an amazing work ethic. He's just and what he did for me that was amazing. We'd record all day, but at night we'd have listening sessions, and he'd just pick out certain artists and albums and say, listen to this, how they do that, and listen to this, and how many elements you need in a song, and how many are too many, because you can't comprehend what's going on. There's too much information. And that was really valuable in my future productions, which I'm doing now. So I owe Francis a hell of a lot. And he took me in under his wing. I started opening on his tours, and then he took me in It Bites, and it's been an amazing journey.
Your vocals are great. Did you find your voice at the same time as playing the guitar, or is that something you've had to work on? Did it come over a period of time? Tell us about it.
Here's an interesting story. So I get to New York, and I'm with Francis, and I've already recorded some demos, so he's heard my voice. And the thing with Francis is, and I believe him, it's so true, you have to be authentic. The more authentic you are, the easier it is for the listener to buy what you're doing and buy what you're saying and buy your lyrics. So he said, you're from Accrington, right? I said, yeah. He said, The problem with your demos is 60% of the time I buy what you're singing. I like your lyrics, I buy it. But then you start to sound like John Cougar Mellencamp, and then you lose me. And he said, let me tell you, the world does not need another John Cougar Mellencamp. So we need to find your true voice. So I said, well, how do we do that? He said, well, just sing in your normal accent, you know. And I've kind of lost, I mean, for listeners down south, maybe they think, you know, I'm very northern, but I have lost a lot of my northern twang because I lived abroad for so many years. So I started singing like Where I Belong, and I'm singing in my true northern accent, which is, I think it was Ghost in My Heart, you know. There's a place in my heart where the sun never shines. And he went, yeah, maybe that's a bit too much. Just dial it back a little bit. And then we dialed it back until we found something that was a compromise. But now I don't even think about it.
So that really helped the way that you were sort of more relaxed into your voice, I guess, rather than...
Well, it made me think about certain ways I pronounce things, because I get what... If you listen to Francis, one of his albums, the way he pronounces the word love, you know, you'll see the love.
Yeah, he does, doesn't
he? And that for me, it goes straight in my heart, and it's like so authentic. And that's, so sometimes I think about trying to dial back certain words that maybe are too Californian or whatever. And, you know, when I came back from California the first year, my brother said to me, why are you speaking like that? I said, like what? Like that. And my accent had changed, but I didn't realize myself because I'd lived with it. And, you know, so, but now I just try to be me. You know, that was the best advice Francis said. Nobody does you better than you.
Just be authentic. And I guess listeners can understand that. It's the same with and anybody who's I wouldn't say acting so much, but you know, anybody who's in the media, if they're themselves, it seems a lot more authentic and believable, doesn't it? So the UK tour that you're doing at the moment, and you've obviously been living in Sweden for some time, and you've been around the world. How do you find UK audiences? How do they differ to other countries?
Well, it's always special to come home because I feel like I'm singing to people that I can relate to, because we grew up with the same values and the same cultural things in life. And like, you know, on this tour, every night I see people in the audience crying. And I don't think they're crying because it's bad. They're crying because I've touched them in some way. You know, I have a lot of songs about my... That's the one thing I really found to be the key to my songwriting, writing about genuine things, real people, not making up stories, or... Because I used to write for EMI, and that was just pop music, and it's a totally different way of songwriting. And I think if you can touch someone that emotionally you reach them, then you're onto you're doing something right, you know. So I find the British audiences are very, they can relate more to my songwriting because of, you know, my references. Like an example, the song Where I Belong, you know, where I talk about hanging out with my mates with Toblerones and, you know, fish and chips and rag and bone and things like that. You know, maybe the kids today, obviously they wouldn't know that, but my general audience does, and they can relate to it. It's like, I lived through that. Right? Yeah, you're talking about my.
So that's slightly different to, say, if you were playing in Sweden.
Yeah, because for the first part, they wouldn't know what rag and bone is. They wouldn't know about a lot of my references. You know, Accrington had a central shopping area called Broadway, and they had these beautiful ornamental flower beds. And one of my lyrics, you know, ornamental flower beds are blooming up on Broadway as people seem to come and go. If you don't know that, you don't know that, but it conjures up something in your head. But I tend to, you know, I have the song Where I Belong, which is just about coming home. I have a song called Home Again, and they're about me missing certain things about the culture. I've been lived in Sweden for 30 odd years. And to someone who lives here full time, they would think that's nothing. It's just. But for me, they're big things, you know, a cup of tea, an afternoon tea. It's amazing, you know. I guess it's like if you have a beautiful view, you don't appreciate it because you see it every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you don't see it every day, when you do see it, you think, wow, that's incredible.
I really like the single Georgie. Thank you. What I like about it, it's... Oh, and incidentally, who did the artwork for the video?
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is. Right? It complements the song so well.
Well, the thing is, I use Fiverr.com.
Oh, right. So, you got somebody on there.
Yeah, that was a guy in India that did it. And the amazing thing is, I think even when you're producing music, you should never tell the band what to play straight away. You should always let them do a few takes and see what happens. Because the moment you give them direction, they start thinking differently. And with this guy, I just sent him the song. I knew his style, so he had a certain style, and I didn't give him any direction. And he pretty much nailed the lyrics and the characters in the song straight away. I think I had 2 revisions, and that was all. And I was just blown away.
Well, I like the way that the artwork is sort of done on almost like a vellum.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful song.
But when you say that, I was going to say, well, thank you. At least I found someone that likes the song, because the song before it, That's When It Gets You, it blew up in Thailand of all places, because on my Spotify app, I can see where my music's being listened to. And you think when a song blows up in a certain territory, when the next single comes, because you've been discovered, that would also blow up. But it didn't. It's like I think Georgie got maybe a third of the streams That's When It Gets You got. And I don't understand it, because my voice is the same. Yeah. Similar style.
So you've had 2 albums out so far, Quintessential and Ghost in My Heart. Quintessential came out a couple of years ago. And Georgie's a new song.
Yeah, I've released 3 singles this year. I've released No Time for Goodbyes, That's When It Gets You, and Georgie. That was the last one. And I think it's a new production style. I think I've found... What I tried to do with these songs, I tried to create a sonic palette and limit myself to certain elements and sounds that I because if the song is good, it should be good just on acoustic guitar. So I don't want to get too much production going on, because it tends to take away. And you can also date songs very easily by using certain drums.
I also like some of the lead playing. And I know when I came to see you supporting It Bites about 2.5 years ago now, I was in Wolverhampton at the steel mill, whatever it was called. That was obviously acoustic. And I guess when you're playing acoustic, you don't have the opportunities to play the lead guitar as much.
Well, I do on this tour.
Well, you mentioned earlier.
That's why I'm using the looper. Yeah. Because I'm using, what I've done is on the solos, I've programmed Rhodes. So I kick in the Rhodes so I can play solos. Because I feel that, lead guitar playing is a big part of my arsenal of talent when it comes to playing guitar. And I wanted to show that off, and I think people like it, and it's just nice to be able to do that. And I really enjoyed playing lead, so it's so that's why I'm using the looper basically. I don't like to use it in a way that most people, like the Ed Sheeran style. Ed is great, obviously, but when you're building things up, obviously he's so fast at doing it now. But when I see people like building up a song and it's gone 5 minutes and you still haven't started singing, it loses me. I lose my attention. So I don't use the looper in that way. When I'm playing live back home in Sweden, maybe I'll use it where I actually record myself playing 4 bars acoustic, and then I'll just solo over it, and I have a beat going. But I have a percussion player on this tour, Remco, and he's great. And Dory's fantastic with shakers. So between them, I've got it covered. So I sometimes we don't use the beats. We just use.
And when you play your lead solos, like for example on this tour, are you? Do you have do you know exactly what you're going to play? Do you have some of it that you start off or do you just improvise?
Very good question. On the singles where it's specific solo, I've learned the solos this time, and I play, I'd say 90% what's on the record. And then some songs I'll just improvise. And the best part about playing live with musicians is actually when you go off script, because then you're making music, because you're not just reproducing something that's already rehearsed. And that's what we all 3 of us like to do. So we will always differ every night on some song or maybe the same song, just to feel what's going to happen now. That feeling when you're looking at each other and you're going to go somewhere and you both go there together. That's the best feeling. That's what music's all about for me.
Hi, it's Bob here. Just a quick interlude. Hope you're enjoying this episode. And if you would like to hear more interesting interviews, we have over 150 episodes to date with many fascinating guests talking about a wide variety of topics which include music, history, philosophy, fitness, food and drink, adventure, contemporary culture, and many, many more. I'm sure there's something that you'd really enjoy. So all you need to do is just visit undercurrentstories.com or search Undercurrent Stories in any of the podcast platforms. And now back to the show. So it sounds like the chemistry of this particular band is very good.
It's great. I mean, me and Dory, we got a great compliment from one of the guys in China Crisis who came to our gig in Liverpool. And he said, "Wow, man," he said, "you two, you sound like you've been singing together all your life because we're so tight together."
Tell us about Dory, Quint, because she was there's some connection with Van de Graaff Generator, wasn't there?
Yeah, her father David was one of the founders of that band, and Dory's just done a new album, which is absolutely amazing. And I was lucky to catch her with her father. Is in her band at the moment, playing sax and flutes, and I caught her at the Herman Hart's about a month ago. And he's just incredible to watch. It's like I think he's 75, 80, and it's like watching a wizard from Harry Potter. He's just incredible to watch as a musician. And he's coming to our gig on Tuesday, so I'm hoping he might have a flute or a penny whistle in his pocket. But Dory's background is she met Francis maybe 20 years ago, and started doing tours with him. And then they did a lot of house concerts throughout Europe and England. And then she made her own album, The Courting Ground, which is the most beautiful album from, I think, 2007 or something like that. And then she's just released a new one, she was in a band called Capricorn's Constant, which was with her father. And I think what happened was they were recording an album and the lead singer left, and so they decided to make the album and around Dory, and Dory sang all the vocals and wrote most of the songs. So, but it's very beautiful, and she's just incredible. She's played with Robert Plant, and she did a lot of work with Chris Difford from Squeeze. So she's the consummate professional, and great fun on tour as well.
I'd like to talk about your songwriting, Quint. When you're writing a song, how do you normally start? Do you start with the lyrics, the melody, or do you just sort of noodle around on the guitar? How does it work?
I'm always looking for good titles. So in conversation, if I hear someone say something, maybe I'll write it down or try and put it in my memory bank. And I think it's always easy to write a song if you have a title or an idea. Yeah. And Adele once said, if you're happy, it's very hard to write good songs because you're too happy. All the good songs come from emotional heartbreak or whatever. And I've had a rough time in relationship wise last 3 years. So 2024 I didn't write anything. 2023 I didn't write anything. But 2025 it just came back and I've started writing. It's coming very quickly, and before I would take a long time to produce a song, but now I'm limiting myself to I'm doing one a month basically. So I start with maybe acoustic guitar, get some good lyrics. It sounds phony, this, but John Lennon said that all the songs are out there. You just have to pull one in. They just come from nowhere. Sometimes it's hard to say.
Yeah, I've heard this thing where I can't remember who it was, but it was a similar thing where this guy was saying that almost you're like a vessel. And this song is in the air.
Yeah,
and it sort of comes through.
Like a conduit. Yeah. It comes through you.
And you find that, do you?
It sounds a bit phony and a bit, flummy, but sometimes you just can't explain where, why did that lyric come out? And I mean, obviously you'd write a lot of stuff that you don't record because it's not good, but, and I'll find a lot of notepads and stuff with lyrics in it, and I'll look at them and go, oh my God, that's terrible. But, the good ones are very good. And I just wrote some lyrics for a Swedish West Coast project where they send me the music is done and they're like humming the melodies, but there's no lyrics. No. So then I write the lyrics. And I like doing that because, they had a song called Mama, and that was it. They just had a title. And I came up with this concept where this guy's in the first verse is telling his mum how much he loves him. And she's saying the same, and then then the second verse comes, and he's met a girl, and he brings her home and introduces her to his mother, and he hopes that her mother loves her as much as he does, and then just little concepts that everyone can relate to. Yeah. So, but sometimes I sit at the piano and write, sometimes on my guitar, but I think most songwriters tend to get like a demo form, and then you go back and fine tune your lyrics and make them. I always use Francis as a reference. The great thing about a good lyric is it paints a picture in your mind. You can feel or see it. Like, Francis' lyric, "You're my soldier in deep water." You just see a guy in a river with a rifle over his head. Or he has one lyric that's, "You're like a hole in my atmosphere's ozone, letting in the perfect weather. You know, it's just incredible. And where do you get that from? The guys from Egremont, come on. And it's just, yeah, it's so exciting to write good lyrics. And you know, I've got this song "Brightness in My Soul" that I wrote when my mum died, and every night when I play it, people are crying, and I say this is dedicated to all our mothers out there. You know, if they're still with us or they're not, and if they're still with you, go home tonight and tell you love her.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And people just, it's amazing to see people affected emotionally by music, you know, and that makes it all worthwhile, because there's not many. The rewards aren't the same as they were back in the day. You know, nobody's making lots of money from music anymore, especially when it comes to airtime and Spotify and streaming and things like that. But this, what I'm doing now, it's for me, it's payback for all the years of rehearsing. And I'll tell you an interesting story. I went to Christie's twice last year. Jeff Beck was selling his guitars. It might have been this year, actually. Jeff Beck and Mark Knopfler. And I walked into a room when Mark Knopfler's guitars were all on the walls. And you got to remember, I spent so many hours in my bedroom learning all those Dire Straits songs. And I walked into this room and I just looked at the guitars and I started to cry like a baby. It just came from all that emotion, all those. I don't know where it came from, but that is the power of music. It's like, you know, this guy was my idol, and you know, it's incredible.
Is there a song of yours that feels different every time you play it live?
To be honest with you, actually, I was thinking about that. The "Brightness in My Soul" song. I usually have a hard time completing the song without choking or, you know, tears in my eyes. But this time, I haven't really done that on this tour, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting used to the fact that my mum's gone, and I just see the song as a beautiful homage to her, and you know, it's a tribute. And but that song usually there's a little part in it where it says, "Be here with me when I need you most. Be here with me when I'm weak. Be here with me when I miss you most. Be here with me when I sleep." And then there's a pause in the music there. And that pause can last for 3 seconds or 20, depending on how choked up I am at that point. But that's the one that really gets me. And then when I played in Accrington, I did some concerts in Accrington, some house concerts, and there were people there that knew my mum. And to look out and see them all crying was pretty heavy. So, but by and large, I like to be able to improvise a little bit.
Yeah.
When I'm playing my own songs, you know. And I got to give Dory credit. She's fantastic at arranging things and coming up with ideas. And you know, we're on the way up in the car. She said, "Why don't we do the ending on Hollywood like we used to?" I said, "How did that end?" She said, "With the, you know, when all the lights go down." But I said, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." So tonight we're going to do that. You know, venues on this tour have been very different. I mean, we've had a house concert, we've had 2 theatres. We've had a recording studio. On Tuesday, we're playing on a vineyard.
Oh, lovely.
Created a special Quint Starkie menu and wine pairings and things. Tomorrow we're doing a normal pub, but they're building a big stage down in Chester. So it's, the venues are varied, and I like to play. I love it all. I mean, yesterday we played for 10 people because it was a private house party. But it was brilliant. We had a great time, and we spent all morning in the hot tub and relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
The views were just stunning. It's incredible.
Do you see this particular lineup that you've got at the moment? Do you see yourself doing more tours?
Absolutely. I mean, the sad thing is I've never toured the albums with a full band. I played once with a full band, and that was with Francis at this charity event he does in Egremont. Yeah. That was the only time I've ever done it with a full band. Yeah. And it was great. I had Pete Jones on keyboards from Camel and Ed Bites. And but the problem is, for me to bring musicians with me or tour a full band, the economy is just not in it at this level. You know, I've like 5 hotel rooms and, you know, tour bus. And so doing it this way, you know, car rental, we're staying at okay hotels. And Francis' manager, Phil Beaumont, has been very generous all along. And we use his house as a base in Oswestry. And he's been on a few gigs with us, and he's kind of tour managing. He's great. Yeah.
You got any new music? I know you mentioned that you've got a couple you're trying to do one a month. Is there a new album coming out at some point?
Yeah, I want to get it out by October for sure. These three singles, this year. These 3 singles will be on there. I've got about 12 songs that are written that are not actually produced. But these days, when you record a song, you produce it at the same time. It's not like before where you just recorded everything like Stephen Lipson was saying, you record all these tracks and then you have to balance them and mix them. These days, you tend to, it's mixing itself as it goes along, as you add each element, and you're almost listening to the finished thing. And this time was the first time I haven't used a mastering facility, because I feel I can do it just as good now with the equipment. You need less and less equipment these days. Yeah. I remember Stephen saying that he got £15,000 to build a studio.
Yes.
You know,
And that was in the 70s, wasn't it? Or early 80s.
Yeah, I know. And you wouldn't get much for that money back then. No. But now, for that money, you could get yourself a good laptop and some mics and some preamps, and you're good to go.
What
you can make records.
DAW, digital audio workstation, are you currently using?
I use Logic for music, and then because of my TV background, I use Pro Tools for sound design.
Yeah.
I used to mix in Pro Tools. When I did my albums, I'd record them in Logic and then transfer to Pro Tools. But now I'm mixing in Logic.
I've got Ableton. So. What do you think of Ableton?
Yeah, I never got into Ableton.
I think it was predominantly originally like for dance music, wasn't it, in the 90s?
Oh, yeah.
But it seems that more and more guitarists seem to use it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Stephen talking about the Splice library.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes when you're looking for inspiration, it's really good because you can. But now there's a new thing that's come, a new plugin called, I think it's called Co-Producer, and it's a plugin you put in on your master bus in Logic, and that listens to what you've already done, and then you can say, "I need a guitar," and it will find you a gazillion samples of guitars in the same key that fit. So it is kind of like painting by numbers, but at the end of the day, it's like people say to me, why don't you just use AI to generate lyrics and stuff? And it's because I don't want to talk to guys like you and say, hey, have you heard my new single? And you say, is it AI or have you done it yourself? And of course, if it's AI, anyone could have done it. It's like I was driving home and I was on my street and I met my neighbor and he said, oh, I've written a song today. I said, I didn't know you were a musician. No, I use one of those AI programs. But it's a great song. And I was like, okay. If somebody gives me feedback on a song and they love it, I want to know that I've done the whole thing. I don't want to say it.
And it's interesting, isn't it? If anybody can write a song with AI, there's going to be so much product out there that's uploaded. You sort of think, well, I need to find. It's going back to the authenticity thing, isn't it, Quint?
Yeah, but that's the thing. How do you stick out? How do you, like Stephen said, there's 100,000 songs a day uploaded to Spotify.
Yeah,
and you can submit your song before it comes up on Spotify to their playlist editors, and I've never had one pick one of my songs and put it in a playlist. The only time I got in a big playlist at Spotify was when I actually played at Spotify. They saw me playing and said, can you come and do a breakfast session? I did that.
Oh, yeah, because they're based in Sweden, aren't they, where you are?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So they approached me and said, hey, is that your own stuff? I said, yeah, sure. Can you come and play at Spotify? Yeah, sure. And straight away I said, I don't want any money. Just put some of my songs in good playlists. That was the deal, because they can make or break you. And they put one song in two playlists, and I went from maybe, I don't know, 200 followers to 100,000 overnight.
Wow.
And then when the list disappeared, you drop down again. And so it's a totally new business from, I've done the whole being in a band on Elektra, done the sessions. I've done the whole thing throughout my career. But I got to say, what I'm doing now gives me the most pleasure because I get to hang out with great people who are my friends. We get to play music. We meet a lot of great people. When people come up to you, like the guy from China Crisis came up to me and he said, you and me have the same record collection. I can tell from your lyrics. He said, brilliant songwriting. And for me, that made the whole tour for me. It was because I respect these guys. They've done it. We were talking about Top of the Pops.
They were good, weren't they? China Crisis. I remember them.
Yeah, they were huge. Yeah. He told me they spent 5 months on a way with Walter Becker producing them.
Wow.
He was talking about budgets. There were $500,000 for an album back then.
Yeah. It's not that.
It's a bygone era.
What would you say to a budding musician now who wants to enter the music industry and wants to make it their career?
I always look at John Mayer because John Mayer went to Berkeley, but he never finished Berkeley. He said he looked around and he saw all these other people that were going to be graduating with him. They're all in the same boat. And he realized that very early on that it was about the songwriting. It's about creating songs and creating an identity as a musician. And the thing that scares me is, especially at my old school in Hollywood, now I think it's $40,000 for like this amount a year or something. It's crazy money. You're producing all these musicians that are incredible, and with YouTube now, YouTube for the last 20 years. You've got young kids that can play anything because it's all there. We had to lift needles.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, down to 16.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, that was luxury. I never had that luxury. I think 33 was my slowest. But what I'm saying is you've got all these musicians, but the venues are closing.
Yeah.
The job opportunities are closing. And when you do get the jobs, the budgets are not there anymore. So I feel sorry for them because we lived through a time where it was, at least if you made it, you got the rewards. And even if you didn't make it, you could still make a good living playing. Like the working men's club circuit was a great training ground. And just the excitement. I think also the other thing is the attention span now. Kids don't have the attention span because of the phones and the gaming and everything. We all used to sit down in front of the Top of the Pops and watch Top of the Pops. It was special. Yeah. It was like once a week, and you look forward to it.
It's not important to people now, is it? I remember. I think it got to 18 or 19 million viewers on a Thursday night at 7:30. But I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know what number one is in the charts now.
No, I don't.
And then you say, well, what chart? What genre?
Exactly. Yeah, there are so many choices. But the other thing is like the album concept of listening to an album from start to finish. I remember one of my first favorite albums to do that was Tubular Bells, for example. And the track placing was so important because they told the story through the songs and Supertramp and all these bands. And that tends not to exist now. You release, people say, why don't you just release an album now? And it's all about keeping attention. So if you release one single per month, you have something to try and pull listeners in and hopefully grow your audience. And they seem to say that's the best way to do it. Because if you just release one album, it's out and then people forget it. Just 400,000 more albums come out the next week.
Well, I think we all in danger. We go onto Spotify and we put a track on and we think, yeah, that's okay. I'll see what the next one's like. And we go on. Whereas, I remember, and I think you might mention this before, that when I'd spent £2.25 on an album in the early 70s from my hard-earned pocket money, I had to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, when I bought albums, we were talking about it in the car today, some people... Remco was saying his friend bought albums just based on the artwork.
Yeah.
He didn't even know what the artist was.
Yeah.
But I bought albums based on the musicians on the back.
Right.
The Steve Lukather's, the Larry Coltons. And that was interesting. When I did my first single this year, I'm kind of friends with Larry on Facebook and stuff. And someone said to me, wow, that sounds like Larry. You should send it to him. And I did. And he got back to me and said, really nice playing. I actually said, really, really nice.
Oh, really, really
so
nice.
I took that. Well, really, really means like, it's not just a throwaway comment. It's like really, really nice. Yeah. And that again, that made that song worthwhile just doing it. It's like, he's my idol. And it's nice to get recognition from your peers that you're doing something.
Yeah. I was interested to hear that Francis is joining Asia. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. I
think
it'd be a really good fit.
I think so too. And I used to love Asia. I mean, the Steve Howe version. Because Steve Howe's guitar playing is pretty special. It's a bit erratic and a bit out of the box kind of thing. And I love that. And so we had a binge listening session to Asia on the way up in the car.
So it's been great talking to you, Quint. Where do you see things going next?
When I finish my third album, get that out, set up another tour. I might be back in October, actually. Francis is coming over with Asia, so we might be doing something together. I don't know. But usually when he comes over, we end up doing something together. So basically, third album, more touring, more songwriting, and just keep going. I love doing music. Music's been very kind. We all said that in the car on the way up. Music has given us so much with friendships and experiences and beautiful places. And it's just great to be able to play your instrument, sing a few songs, and hopefully make the world a nicer and better place in that moment when you're doing it.
Yeah, well, I certainly think you do with those albums. They're beautiful. So, Quint, where can people find out more about what you do and your work, and where can people reach you?
The easiest place is my website, which is quintstarkie.net, and Starkie spelled with K-I-E on the end, not like Ringo. Spotify, Quint Starkie. I'm on Instagram, Quint Starkie. I'm on Facebook, Quint Starkie. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, I'll gladly follow you back, and you can keep tracking my music that way.
Well, Quint, it's been great talking to you today and hearing about some of the stories, insights, and behind-the-scenes look at life on tour. If you haven't already, make sure to check out Quint's music and catch him live when he's next playing near you. Having seen Quint play live a couple of years ago, he was absolutely fantastic. You can find links to Quint's music, tour dates and socials in the episode description. And to our listeners, as always, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that follow or subscribe button. Maybe even leave us a quick review. It helps more people find the show. We'll be back soon with more great conversations after the summer break. So until then, take care, have a great summer, and keep listening to any previous Undercurrent Stories episodes. We have over 160 to date. See you next time, and thank you for coming on the show, Quint, and good luck on the rest of the tour.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.